Hey team, you're about to experience my interview with Stef van BOEKEL. He is the founder and operator of O1, which stands for Operator One. Operator One is a done for you service for brands that want to expand into Europe via marketplaces like Amazon. They are an end-to-end service provider that helps you strategize about how you want to go into Europe, which marketplaces you want to go on, and which marketplaces present the best opportunities. They'll be strategize and implement that to help with ongoing support and communication, growth, scaling, and then review and optimize over time. So check out this interview. It was super interesting. I learned a ton. It's an area that I'm not a specialist in. So have a listen and see what you think. Welcome to B2B Commerce Corner. Commerce Corner is a sub-series of the E-Commerce Edge podcast discussing all things B2B commerce through the lens of agencies, consultants, merchants, and more. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. It is my pleasure to welcome Stef van BOEKEL from Marketplace Distry, now called welcome, Stef.
Jason, thank you. Nice to be here. And I'm happy that you are informing already in team of the listeners to this big name change. It's indeed O1. It stands for operating.
Yeah, look, and it's super exciting to have you along for the ride today. And before we get into what you guys do, you specialize in Amazon businesses that are operating in Europe or want to operate in Europe, and they want to operate at a higher level. They want to be more performant. They want to be more successful. But before we get into all that and how you guys do what you do and the tech that backs up your services layer, why don't you tell us how you even got to be in this space? You have very much an entrepreneurial background, but you also have almost like a consulting background as well. You've been a business advisor for multiple companies. You've been a commercial director. You've been an account manager. So you've got this mixed bag in terms of, I wouldn't normally, like when I look at your background, I wouldn't immediately think, oh, he's going to jump into e-commerce. So how did you get to be in the e-commerce space?
Indeed, I have quite a background that jumps from left. I had a tree nursery, I was a door knocker, and I was an account manager. But actually, it all led to where we are right now. So that will give a bit of an introduction. I was not too an ambitious student, I must say. I was ambitious for the weekend, how many beers I can drink in one night, so that type of targets, KPIs were set. But when I became a little bit older, I was, let's say, more motivated to actually do something with my life. And I was always quite commercially driven. But if you don't have any diplomas, it's quite difficult to get a good job. So basically, I started doing door-to-door sales, getting paid €15 for anybody that would sign an energy contract. You're sitting at home in your lazy chair. I would then knock door and say, hey, you're paying too much. You should go to us. And was studying in the Dutch weather, which is obviously not an Italian climate. So that was quite a difficult job, but I learned the sales job. Then I was able to, after a period, to find a car event. So my parents were really proud because they were thinking I would end up somewhere in a factory. And that was actually quite interesting because I was selling SEO packages for Google. And back then I was competing against the yellow pages. So you can't imagine, but people were spending thousands of euros on printed media to be found. And then the most target was, I was talking, for example, to somebody said he was selling lighting equipment and his first company was called A Productions. Then he sold that company. Then he created a new company that was called AA Production, which he also sold. And then the third name was AA Production or something similar. Let's say I learned some things or two about the importance. So that basically was my first introduction in the e-commerce space. And I haven't really left the market. Yes, I started a tree nursery because my father has a farm, agricultural. And I had the opportunity, let's say an old friend of mine wanted to start a business. And I said, okay, I will join you because I also want to have a business. So there's also a very traditional market, obviously selling trees. But our main sales market was online through marketplaces. Even though it was 15 years ago, it was really laying the fundament of selling traditional products through e-commerce channels, basically learning and breaking through new ceilings and entering a markets that are nowadays quite normal for everybody.
And how did you decide ultimately to specialize in Amazon selling? Obviously, you had experience with it through the family business, and you could have gone any direction. You could have gone, hey, let's go down to the D2C route. Let's go the marketplace route. You could have worked with other marketplaces other than Amazon, because, Amazon is relatively new in terms of scale, reaching significant scale in Europe. Obviously, they're massive in the United States. And even down to your niching down into the B2B space on Amazon. Sure, you help brands that are doing D2C and B2C on Amazon, but you also have a deep specialization in B2B on Amazon. And interestingly, a couple of months ago, I think it was 2 or 3 months ago, Reuters came out with a story about Amazon Europe and how the explosive growth of B2B buying on Amazon in Europe during COVID meant that they realized they were very short of B2B sellers amongst many B2B product categories in Europe, and that they were making a concerted effort to go out and secure more B2B vendors in Europe across all these categories that they don't yet cover. And also they talked about the fact that they are going to increase their logistics capabilities substantially in Europe to cope with this additional B2B demand, because of course, in B2C, D2C, you're moving maybe one carton, one box. You're moving small volumes of products. But once you get into the B2B space, oftentimes the logistics requirements go up substantially, because now you're moving in cartons, pallets, and containers. You're moving very large, very heavy equipment. You're moving very large items and very heavy items and very large volumes of items. And so therefore, to me, what that tells me is that Amazon recognizes in Europe that the B2B opportunity is massive and they are looking to capitalize on that. But obviously, you've been in this game a lot longer than Amazon started making B2B a focus. So first of all, how did you specialize in Amazon? And then secondarily, how do you view the B2B opportunity through the Amazon lens?
Okay, I started selling myself to different marketplaces, such as Amazon, but I basically worked in 10 years with all the major marketplaces. Then I started becoming an interim manager, working inside companies to see, are you able to start selling to marketplaces on a European level? Your customer support, how many languages do you speak? What do you speak? Your payment providers, are they able to accept payments from different countries? Your logistical return network, your warehouse capabilities. And I was always going from project to project to project to project. Also was always good money because you get paid per hour. So it was a nice interim jobs and it was unlimited jobs. Then I was sitting for a US brand that was actually in the medical equipment, stethoscopes, etc., that sell to more, I'd say, doctor's offices. I don't know what the exact.
Clinics, doctor's offices.
Clinics, indeed. So I was helping them to set up an operation in Europe. I was sitting there at Amazon and Amazon was telling me about Amazon Business, Amazon Business. So I immediately got extremely excited because they were giving me insights about how B2B e-commerce will outgrow the consumer market. Why? Because the average buyer or as a company per purchase online spends almost 10 times more than the consumer. Obviously, I have a business. We spend a lot more money. That I have a wife, so maybe my wife also spends a lot, but you get my point, right? So I was already extremely excited. And then they were also informing me that the B2B companies are basically in the same position as the consumer markets were 15 years ago. But 15 years ago, and still today, they are looking at it and seeing it happen. So we need to anticipate on the growth of B2C e-commerce. We are, like I said, we are basically breaking ceilings to make one step further. Well, in the B2B segment, we now know what's going on. So we can start anticipating and be in front of the growth and then basically exploit the opportunity. So I was telling Amazon that I've been convincing consumer brands already for years about the importance of cross-border sales, about the future of marketplaces. And then I said, maybe we get partner up. I said, okay, because a lot of work all selling on Amazon is basically the listing. So I said, okay, I will start recruiting those brands, but you need to do then the listing and provide me some additional support. They said, okay, fine, give me 5 brands they said, here is 5 brands that we are unable to get for the last year because from an operational, a strategical perspective, a contractor perspective, they were not ready to sell direct with Amazon. So I said, okay, I can go to those brands and say, hey, I'm an interim manager, I'm going to design your infrastructure and you're going to be the best for selling on Amazon. or I can design the infrastructure from zero, specifically around this massive sales channel. And I say, okay, why don't I act as your external organization with one specialism, and that's Amazon. So you are ahead of the future market. You don't need to do internal investments, and we both can exploit the growth opportunity. So that was in 2018. I think 5 weeks later, let's say 2 months later, I signed 3 out of 5 contracts of those brands. So Amazon was excited, I was excited. And from that moment on, I just went extremely excited and just went 100% in it. I told my wife, okay, can we talk? What's going on? I said, yeah, I'm going to start working for myself. I'm going to set up a company and I'm going to work 100 hours per week. Is that okay? Something like that. And then she said, okay, fine. And that's basically how I got started. And that's not, and we never stopped. So since then, we're recruiting massive brands and explain them about Amazon. To give you a little bit more insight to the lens of Amazon and general, the e-commerce space. So if I talk to somebody from the US and I tell you I'm from the Netherlands and I can drive in 4 hours to Paris and in 3 hours to Luxembourg and 2 hours to Antwerp and Belgium. So they expect me to, if I have a nice weekend, I will just drive to Paris because why not? It's like a 4-hour drive. But you don't do that, unfortunately. The point is that 98% of the companies that sell in Europe only sell in 1, 2, or 3 countries. Why? Because they don't have the capabilities to start selling pan-European level. The thing that we are basically solving is to immediately make sure you can start selling in 9 countries at a professional level. Specifically in the B2B market. In the consumer market, there are 25,000 companies per week that say, I want to sell on Amazon. So the number of products being added to the catalog to Amazon is massive. In the B2B, it's not really happening because they are still thinking about, is e-commerce the future, etc. So that's basically, I don't need to go back to your question, but the opportunity for a market growth is there. The future also is cross-border, but to be able to stimulate brands to start selling cross-border, the infrastructure needs to be there. Some parts Amazon is solving and investing is solving, such as, for example, bulk shipments, but a lot still depends on the capabilities of the supplier. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you absolutely did. And look, I thank you for the deep insights into kind of where Amazon Europe is at. And look, you jumped ahead in terms of some of the challenges that a lot of these European manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, that they're facing a whole bunch of challenges around digitalizing their businesses, not only from an internal e-commerce perspective, i.e. their owned e-commerce websites, but they're also really unable in many instances to capitalize on the marketplace opportunity through Amazon. Because, for example, especially in Europe, they need to have multilingual support. They need to have multi-location warehousing in terms of local distribution so that products can get there quickly to all of the destination countries that they want to sell through. They have to all of a sudden start thinking about, okay, if I'm based in the UK and I want to sell to the rest of Europe, especially since Brexit, then I've got additional complexities there. If I'm in the rest of Europe and I want to sell into the UK, then I got complexities going that direction. I've still got all of the tax complexities that go along with this. I've got all the compliance complexities that go along with this. So there's a whole lot for brands to consider. And what it sounds like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, whilst you started out as a pure consultant, where you were going in and you were giving people advice, okay, this is how you can sell on Amazon. Here, I'm going to facilitate you getting a contract set up in place through Amazon so that you can start selling on Amazon, whether that be FBA fulfilled, whether that's internally fulfilled, whatever it might be. I'm going to help you understand what it's going to take for you to sell on the Amazon platform. And then you said, okay, that's great. I can provide these advisory services and I can make a whole lot of money, or I can create more of a done for you service. So I can help you. I can deal with the logistics. I can deal with the customer service. I can deal with the analytics. I can deal with all of the data components that you need to have to be able to be successful on Amazon. So I can provide more of a turnkey solution instead of just a pure external advisory service. Am I understanding kind of the evolution of what you do? Am I understanding how that happened?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I think what is the most complex thing for any company to start working with Amazon, since what I told you, from operational and contractual point of view, you cannot compare them with any other sales channel. There's the culture of the company that actually is the biggest challenge, because you cannot hire an Amazon manager and say you will do Amazon, because there are different capabilities necessary. You need to do somebody that can know price strategy. You have content optimization with keyword research localized. You need to have customer support. You need to have stock control. Let's say stock control activities. You have finance. You have warehousing and logistic activities. So if you want to start working with Amazon, what I normally always did, I set up an in-house project management team with all kinds of different capabilities. And from there, we started to slowly implement, okay, this is Amazon. And if you want to succeed on Amazon, you need to do it professionally. So the product pages cannot be a simple catalog upload. You need to see how the customer is behaving online. So that's a transformation. Then what we also were saying, an order of 50 euro on Amazon is just as important as an order of 5,000 euro from your normal clients, because that order of 50 euro also is generating reviews and you want to post the reviews. And if you try to convince a company, specifically larger companies, to say, okay, you all need to adjust all the systems, procedures only for one sales channel, because that's how they look at it. Why do we have to change only for Amazon? Which I would say, because it's the largest sales channel in Europe. For example, in the US, it's massive. It's, I think, 50% of the total e-commerce market, but that's also in Germany, France, Italy, UK, and Spain. And to give you a bit of an idea, there live 18 million in Germany and 16 million, let's say around 16 million in UK, France, Italy, and Spain. So the total market size is even bigger than the US market. But yeah, long story short, nobody really wants to do it. Nobody wants to set up these international teams to develop all this local operation. So I was painfully looking at the missed opportunities. And so the bigger the pain, the more strive to solve it. So yes, now we say, okay, we call it Amazon Infrastructure as a Service. For the price of 1 FTE, you get 30 FTE that do all activities to make sure that you're able to distribute your product seamless in pan-European level and directly also on the highest level for a customer experience point of view.
And do you also deal with Amazon PPC advertising as well? We know that in the United States, Amazon PPC advertising now, in terms of revenue and spend, now only trails Meta and Google as the number one ad platform, digital ad platform in the United States. So they are coming up very fast. They're measuring their revenue now through ads in the billions of dollars per quarter now. So it's growing very quickly. And so I wonder, how has the evolution of ads, of digital advertising evolved in Europe, specifically as it relates to Amazon? Are they a large player there yet? And do you, because that's a whole unique skill set in its own right, that being able to manage PPC advertising on Amazon and being able to drive success through that, both on and off Amazon, through PPC ads on Amazon, that feels like a whole unique skill set all of its own to be able to make sure and maximize revenue from those ads and ROI from those ads. So do you offer those services too? And is that becoming is the demand for those services becoming bigger in Europe now?
We are operated, so we do all the boring stuff, the compliance, the VAT filing, stock control, the translations, etc. But yes, we also have a performance team in-house of those performance activities, because you need to do so to be ahead of the market. That said, the European market and the US market, you cannot compare. Why? In the US, there are 2.5 million sellers active selling daily on Amazon, while in Europe, there are 1.1 million scattered over 9 countries. So there's less competition. So to be able to, let's say, add the page 1 is more easy from an organical perspective. So from a total revenue, or let's say total investment, for sure you need less investments to be able to start generating sales. That said, it is the most active dialogue that we have with our brands is, okay, how did we perform last month? What should we perform next month? And what do we need to do to perform better? And often that is around performance marketing and indeed also PPC activities.
And what do you see?
That said also, that just to clarify one other thing, because we are an operator, we actually work a lot with marketing agencies. So the marketing agency does the performance activities and we just do on the background, let's say the boring stuff. Well, this way, the marketing agency can start offering their market services in 9 countries. And without going outside the comfort zone, the brand can keep working with the current marketing agency without going outside the comfort zone. And basically, we all open up 9 countries.
Makes sense. And so do you guys have technology that sits in the middle between the brand and Amazon itself, and you manage that channel through both a technology and a services layer, or are they integrating their catalog directly with Amazon through something like a PIM system or directly out of their ERP or through a channel management platform like Channel Advisor or any one of the other channel management platforms that are out there that can send a product data feed to Amazon and then pull down orders from Amazon? Do you provide a technology layer in addition to a services layer, or are you a pure services layer that sits over top their direct integration with Amazon? Because presumably in some scenarios, they must fulfill directly orders from Amazon directly. In some cases, they'll need logistics assistance from you. So they need to have you helping to fulfill all of their Amazon orders. And then I guess in some instances, they would also be doing FBA. So I guess you see multiple combinations of scenarios where they need assistance from you. They might not need 100% of your services. They might need 80% of your services, kind of thing. So how do these brands typically get their products listed on Amazon in the first place? Is it via technology you provide, or is it by channel management technology?
I have today a different story than I had yesterday. Because we were previously, our name was Marketplace Disty. So it already says we were a distributor specialized on marketplaces. And we called it Distributor 2.0 because we were a marketing agency and a distributor in one. From today, it's called Operator One, where we are no longer being seen as the distributor, but really as, let's say, the service provider and the operator developing a brand. That also means that we are going to go multi-channel outside Amazon. We will be working at up to 100 marketplaces in 27 countries. And also that is all happening because I am the founder of the company. And until a couple of days ago, I was also the managing director of the company. But we recently hired a new CEO. His name's Andre. And Andre has a background in setting up a multi-channel solution in one of the largest marketplace sellers in Europe and the Benelux. And he is developing a complete solution that is a very API-friendly type of solution. So we are developing our own system, but we also are able to connect with various solutions, such as direct with the warehouse management system of the suppliers. But the main recurring system that we are using is indeed a channel manager, not channelable, but where we have different solutions that we work with. And then indeed for the brand, what they normally do, they just provide us in a spreadsheet in an XML format, all the content that it goes into the system. And then we have an in-house content team that makes sure that the products are compliant and also are optimized against the local market. There is a whole thing that we are setting up right now, but I'm not the technical specialist in this. That's the new CEO. So I'm unable to go too much into depth there. But to quickly answer your question, yes, it's a channel solution that we are developing.
Yep, makes sense. And what do you see as, I guess, because you work with both B2C and B2B brands, right? You're not just working with B2B brands. You're helping individual sellers to sell on Amazon too, right? But if you were to look at the percentage split of your business between B2B and B2C merchants, what does the split look like today? And do you expect that split to stay roughly the same moving forward?
From 2018 to, let's say, 2021, it was 100% B2B focused, so only B2B brands. But let's say the market got aware of our solution. So we had consumer brands that said, hey, can't you help us? We are also only selling in one country, or we're not selling at all. So then later we said, okay, we also have a consumer solution, because basically the route to market for B2B product or B2C product is similar. But the sales cycle from a consumer brand is shorter, simply because they actually have an e-commerce strategy and they understand how it works. While within the B2B segment, you still have to explain them that B2B e-commerce is the biggest future or the biggest threat, depends how you work on it. So I'm actually talking still with people that are wearing ties, etc. since we are doing more marketing activities, I assume that we will be recruiting more consumer brands in the future versus B2B brands. If you look at where I see the biggest market opportunity on the long term, let's say the 10 year from now, then it's, for me, easy. It's B2B. I'm really super excited about being in this market.
And what do you think is the, top 3 challenges that these B2B brands face when they look at going on to Amazon and being successful on Amazon? Amazon sets a very high bar. They set a very high bar for shipping. They have some pretty high expectations in trying to curate the brands that sell through their platform. And it's hard for brands sometimes to measure up to those expectations. And so therefore their listings get demoted, or maybe they get kicked off the platform, et cetera, et cetera. Amazon is trying to put the acid, I think, on sellers to make sure they're providing the best experience possible for buyers, because if they don't, then that reflects poorly on Amazon, not on the merchant, right? And so it feels like Amazon is effectively pushing the crap downhill, so to speak, and the merchant is at the bottom of the hill, and so they get the most crap. And so for you, when you think about, okay, here are the challenges that these B2B brands, which in many cases, they're legacy brands, right? They sometimes, actually, in my experience as a consultant, in many cases, they're not doing e-commerce at all. They don't have an owned e-commerce platform. In fact, they oftentimes don't even have a marketing team. They might have a sales team, sure. And they might be doing field sales where they go out and they meet with customers and they do field sales that way. And that's how they do most of their business, is person to person, human to human. But when they start thinking about digital channels, if they have zero experience on digital channels, then biting off the Amazon channel can be pretty overwhelming as a first stop starting place. Yes, it can give them a jump on the market and it can jumpstart their digital ambitions because Amazon already has the traffic. And so Amazon is making it easy from a customer acquisition perspective. Of course, you pay for the privilege, but they're dealing with all the acquisition challenges, right? But what do these B2B brands that maybe, for lack of a better term, aren't as digitally savvy as some of these D2C brands that are in the marketplace, what are the top challenges that you see them face when they start thinking about selling on Amazon?
I think there are a few really big, important blocks. First of all, there's always somebody that doesn't understand and says, let's continue with the traditional market, but also at 60 is 100% of our revenues. But that was basically the main topic until Corona happened. And then basically the business went from, I've been talking to companies that did 65 million and then with a year later, like 2 million. And then we realized, maybe we should start selling online. Companies don't exist for 100 years. Huh? I've been also talking to, we actually have clients that do over a traditional market, over $1 billion. And if you wouldn't search for a product, you would end up with partners because they don't have anything of it. I can give you 1,000 examples, and it's just for me really painful to really look at it and then start explaining the really base. But what is there, the top problems that they have? One, there's always an old person, and I don't want to say, let's say that, and there's always somebody that blocks it, specifically family-owned businesses that are very traditional and don't want to and jump into the new market. That's one. And secondly, and this is also one of the main issues, a lot of B2B brands have a distributor-only strategy. So they say, we don't want to work with retailers, we don't want to sell direct to the consumer, we have an exclusivity contract in those countries, which we cannot breach. Which my reply of this, your distributor is not selling in Amazon, so you are not competing, you're actually opening up a new market. But those are the top 2 things that are on the short term and the blocker. And then the third is hiring an Amazon manager that will do it. Because like I said, you need different capabilities in different languages. So basically you need a team of 5 for every country you go live. While there's no revenue to pay the salaries, while there is no work to hire them full time. So what is then the situation? People just say, okay, let's start in the home country and start developing that. But then it takes a year, 2 years before that team is developed. And my view, people should think borderless when it comes to selling online.
And are you seeing that most of these B2B brands are realizing that through Amazon, they can effectively establish very rapidly both a B2B channel and a D2C channel all through the one marketplace, that they can start selling smaller volumes per order in a D2C kind of a way, but that by creating multiple price points for each SKU, they can automatically start selling in a B2B fashion as well. So maybe they sell an individual inner unit in a D2C way, and that price is set appropriately with a higher margin. And then when you get into maybe a carton or a pallet or a container, then obviously you're now starting to get into the B2B level of volumes. And it's relatively easy to set that up as simply variant level pricing on Amazon so that you can capture the D2C market and the B2B market in one fell swoop? Or are you seeing that most of these B2B brands have no interest in attacking the D2C market and they say, look, we're going to deal in only wholesale volumes. We're only going to sell in wholesale unit volumes through Amazon because that's our traditional business model. And we're not actually trying to compete with our distributors who may be selling D2C, for example. So what are you seeing when they start approaching the Amazon challenge? Are they looking at it as a two-pronged approach, a B2B channel and a D2C channel, or are they looking at it as a pure B2B channel?
I think the target market is completely different because normally when you talk to manufacturers, they try to close deals on pallet level. And the smaller companies, like the independent professionals or the startups that don't have negotiation power to go direct to the brands or that have the buying power to start buying on pallet level, those are actually the ones that are buying online. So they are tapping into a market that they never tapped in before. And the good thing is that when you start waiting on 9 countries, all those different countries, all those small volumes actually make them for one big volume. So you can start again processing it from a bulk perspective, which is their capabilities often, while they're still able to reach that market. Then secondly, there are still a lot of consumers that are buying B2B products online. So they're basically having benefit of both. And it's still the same product page, but you just basically, indeed, like you said, optimize it a bit. As a consumer on Amazon, you're unable to buy in bulk. When you are registered as a company on Amazon with your Chamber of Commerce and your VAT number, then you actually start buying on pallet level, even container level, and see the different price. So without actually having too much operational pressure, you are doing basically all in one go.
And then you leave it up to the consumer to do the legwork of effectively setting up a business so that they can buy in bulk as a business customer.
No, that's not happening. But when so if you look at the professional buyer, for example, the catering is a very good example. There are a lot of food trucks, for example, and those food trucks, they love buying on places like Amazon because they can just buy one box of that, from the working shoes to gloves to the plates, etc. So it's still a B2B client, but using small volumes. But when I talk about the consumer market, that can be, for example, say, okay, I give big picnics at home and I want to have those type of products also available.
Or I'm throwing a birthday party and I need to buy 500 cups, plastic cups. And so therefore I'm a bulk buyer, right?
But also, for example, stethoscopes. The market is 100% focused on, obviously, independent professionals. But during Q4, we see a big peak. Why? Because the parents or the friends or the family say, I want to give him something. So let's give him something he can actually use. So also the consumers, the workwear, also a perfect example. Also a lot of workwear being bought by private users, which actually, if you really read it, focus for the professional buyer user, simply because also they have more trust that it's really a quality product.
So it might be, for example, overalls. You might be a small local mechanic. You're not going to be reselling overalls into the market, but you need 3 pairs of overalls because you work in an automotive shop. And so sure, an overall supplier, they might be used to selling sets of 50 overalls at a time in bulk selling, but now they can sell 3 pairs of overalls at a time, in addition to selling the 50s and the 500s and the 5,000s of overalls at a time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what is really nice in this specific industry is that it's not trend related, right? So if you are happy with a certain worker shoe or overall, you want to have exactly the same shoe or the same overall. So from that perspective, it's the less versus a consumer type of market, you have a lot less trends. So from a business perspective, it's a much easier business to manage and control.
The consumer is less transient, right? And less likely to leave and find another supplier. If they find a supplier of a product that they know is really good, then they're like, okay, cool. The next time I need to buy overalls, I'm just going to go back to my purchase history. I'm going to go back to that exact same seller again, and I'm just going to buy because they had a great product, they had great service, they shipped it to me fast, they answered all my questions, etc. So the B2B customers tend to be a lot stickier than your D2C customers, which have virtually zero loyalty whatsoever. They're going to, every single time the D2C customer goes to buy something, they oftentimes are simply looking for the best deal for the product at the time. And so there's a lot less brand loyalty in the D2C, B2C space than in the B2B space.
But also it's a bit of a challenge, because if you are a purchaser of a startup and you need to buy working shoes for your colleagues, you better cannot make a mistake. So
yeah,
it's better to have a product that nobody complains about than say, this is the new trendy color. Do you want to be the hip and happening? Then the problem. So it's the responsibility of the B2B buyer is different than the consumer.
Yeah, no question about it. But that is an additional layer to making that consumer stickier too, because if they do a good job in procurement of a specific product and it works well, then they're like, I don't need to try 5 other brands because this one works and it works well and we get it at a good price. So I'm just going to stick with that. You stick with what you know, so to speak. And what do you think there's been some data that's come out of the United States. There's been some data that's come out of the UK. And all estimates that I'm seeing today is that over the next decade, B2B sales growth is going to be somewhere between 5 and 8 times what the sales growth rate is going to be in the D2C and B2C space. And so what we're seeing is the compound annual growth rate, the CAGR for B2B sales is, if you just look at it on a graph, it's basically to the moon. And I see it very much as, particularly from a digital perspective, I see it very much like you, which is that B2B is starting now almost like where D2C and B2C e-commerce was a decade ago. And they've got a lot of catching up to do to bridge that gap. And as you say, a lot of these legacy B2B brands are run by legacy owners, legacy family members, parents and grandparents of the people that are actually working in the business today. But on the B2B buyer side, that's changing just as quickly as the supplier side is changing, meaning that the kids and grandkids of the founders are now starting to take over these businesses. They're starting to run these businesses. And so therefore, they have a base expectation as a buyer that just as though they might go onto Amazon to buy for their household goods and their personal goods, they have the absolutely natural expectation that they should be able to go onto Amazon and buy their B2B goods through Amazon as well. They expect it to be just as seamless. They expect it to be just as easy. And they expect the freight and the shipping and everything to be just as transparent as they would buying for their personal life. And so I see the demand curve for B2B is going through the roof.
So if you look at the millennials nowadays, influencing over 70% of the buying decisions in a company. And if the boss now says, I need to have new working shoes, they're not going to go look at when is the next round to see who's selling richer. They go online. So we see that is the crazy demand that we are seeing is simply because people are used to buy everything online, the same service as a consumer, exactly that. There's now that the B2B brands are now really need to catch up, because indeed the market is 10, 15 years ago, but it's going to catch up much quicker because the market is developing much quicker. But also because there are more solutions now to start taking advantage of this growth. It's going to be a race to start getting a sort of a balance there.
Love it. And how do you guys make your money? Because you've got a services layer, you got a technology layer, but it's going to be an increasingly large or significant technology layer. So how do you guys make your money? How do you charge? How do you engage with brands? Is it on a per catalog item basis? Is it on a specific service type basis? Because they can mix and match in an a la carte way which services of yours that they need to use. So how do you guys make your money?
We have 2 income models. One is 5% of the revenues that we generate. And then additional, we work with a multi-retailer to have, let's say, those 30 people doing all the activity. And that starts around €1,700 per month. And on average, goes up to around €3,000 per month. So that's why we sit for a price of a half FTE, get 30 FTE. And that's basically our main business model.
Cool. So effectively, you've got fractional team members. So it's a fractional model that gets allocated to your customers. So that way they don't have to pay for those 30 different people. They pay for their tiny sliver of those 30 different people. So the fractional model works very well from a retainer perspective. And then it's a straight rev share model, which is easily understood by merchants. They understand, hey, cool, we sell more, we pay more, but it's a performance-based engagement.
Exactly. No, we are a 100% volume-driven type of business. We are not an agency that is trying to sell hours. But for us, it's important that we control as much as possible the route to market from end to end, from beginning to end, so that it makes it scalable for us. So we are in Europe a top 5 catalog supplier within Amazon business out of 10.5 million suppliers. And this is really our business is really creating a scalable business and making sure that the brands all are growing, and which is on average over 100% per year with us.
Wow, amazing statistics. Listen, Stef, this has been a fantastic conversation. We're now at the time, we're coming to the end of our time together. This is the chance for me now to flip the script and hand the microphone over to you, let you ask me one question, any question that you like, can be personal or professional. Stef van BOEKEL from now O1, standing for Operator 1. What is your question for me today?
That's an interesting one. What my question I think, what's the biggest win for you from this meeting, and how are you now looking at the European market after these insights?
Look, I think what's interesting about this is that I'm not an Amazon expert. I don't sell Amazon services. I don't even sell consulting for Amazon channel development. That's just not part of my consulting business. I'm helping brands to develop their internal capabilities around digital, not just from an e-commerce perspective, ERP, CRM, CDP, the whole stack. And so I think what is always interesting to me about these types of conversations is just how massive the Amazon opportunity truly is, not just in the US, but in Europe, in ANZ, all around the world. Amazon always starts slow in a new region, but once they start to pick up steam, they become an almost unstoppable force. And that has been borne out in Australia, in Europe, in the Americas, the whole of the Americas. I'm here in Mexico now, and Amazon Mexico is one of the top online sellers in this country. There's really 3 top online sellers here in Mexico. It's Amazon, it is Mercado Libre, and it is Coppel. And those are the 3 biggest online sellers in this country. And I think Amazon tops all 3 of those. And so what is constantly interesting to me is how brands don't necessarily initially see Amazon as a viable digital channel for them, especially when Amazon is new in country or new in region. They say, Amazon isn't doing anything. They've got hardly any products. They're not viable. They're not worth my time. But quickly, usually in under 5 years, they go from not worth my time to, oh my God, if we don't sell on Amazon, we potentially are going to be put out of business by Amazon. And I think the other thing that a lot of brands overlook is the 1P opportunity on Amazon too. So you're primarily talking about the third-party seller opportunity, B2B brands, but also the 1P opportunity, particularly for B2B brands, is just enormous, where Amazon themselves are your customer. Not all the customers of Amazon are your customers. And so it's not only one channel to manage, but it's also one customer to manage. And so it becomes significantly easier to find success on the Amazon channel, particularly once they reach scale, because they want to do as much 1P business as they can in those environments where they've reached scale. But the final piece of that I would say is part of my answer is just how terrified brands are of getting Amazon wrong. Meaning, a lot of the people that I talk to who are thinking about going on to Amazon, they're very aware of the expectations of Amazon in terms of delivery times, in terms of inventory clarity, in terms of all the listing requirements and the performance ad requirements. They are terrified because this is a channel they do not understand at all. Like literally, they might understand an e-commerce website and they understand what that might look like from an internal development perspective and what teams need to be involved internally. It's sales, it's marketing. They understand from an operational perspective what it would take to set up an owned e-commerce channel, but they oftentimes have zero clue about what it would take to be successful on Amazon. And so there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear about, oh my God, I know we cannot do this channel alone because we will absolutely fail because it's such a difficult channel to understand. and to keep happy. It's a difficult channel to keep happy, basically. And so I think that's the thing I'm seeing in the market is, yes, we know we need to do Amazon, but we don't even know where to start. And that's the fear part that I see a lot in the market.
No, I think you touch a lot of important points. I think that what in general it is with a marketplace, because there's so many people selling, if you don't do it on a professional level, you're going to be pushed out. So indeed, if you don't have good listings or good logistics, because people have two ways of looking online: best sold and most positive reviews, and best price. With best price, you don't want to compete. So you want to have basically most sold and most positive reviews. But reviews are often depending on how good your operation is. If you have a shitty operation, you're going to get bad reviews, which is going to impact the sales, etc. It is like a natural way of being pushed out if you don't control your operation.
Makes absolute sense. Now, Stef, if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to chat to you, I'll put the link to O1 in the show notes so that people can click directly through to the website. Do you like people to get a hold of you on LinkedIn? How do you prefer people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about the services you offer and want to learn more about how to be successful in B2B sales on Amazon in Europe, and obviously all the new marketplaces you're going to be adding to your services layer as well?
We have a very simple website, o1.eu. That stands down for Operator One for Europe. So they can reach out there, and through LinkedIn, they also for sure can reach out. And you're always free to book a 30-minute meeting or 1-hour meeting to really look at your situation after talking to brands for over a decade, small, all types of sizes and international or national companies. I know most of the cases, well, let's say I have some experience. So just to help you better recognize if there's opportunity for you, I'm always open to have this call and this meeting and talk business.
Amazing. Stef, thank you so much for your time today. I can't wait to speak to you again soon. Thank you so much. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.